Hi there and welcome to Money Tips. This is Charles Kelly. Well, a lot's been happening in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we've had the UK elections followed by a budget. Then we had a cut in interest rates. And of course, we've had the big news going on, which is the US elections and that stunning win for Donald Trump. What's happening there is that the American elections have seen a big swing to the right. That's my right over here. And in the UK, we've seen a swing to the left. Whereas, the last 4 years they've had a democratic socialist government in the UK, and we've had a conservative government. Now it's kind of switched round. We've got a Labour socialist government here and a conservative Republican government in the US. What would that mean for the UK? Well, uh, we don't know. I mean, he's talked about tariffs. He's talked about putting tariffs, which basically means that if you're sending goods to that country, unless you've got a trade deal with them, they will put an additional tariff, which a lot of countries do already under the World Trade Organization, the WTO rules. EU do it. So unless we've got a trade deal with them, we might have a tariff on any goods sent to the US. But of course, these things have got to be negotiated because it would affect the US exporters as well. But I think what he's doing is saber rattling in order to get a better deal for America. So he can say, well, look, I've got a better deal for the US, which I think he will get, particularly on all these imports from, cheap imports that are driving their industries out of business. So we will see what happens with that. When we had a Trump government before, of course, and at the time we were leaving the EU, he promised us a trade deal. And he lost the election, and Obama and Biden sort of said, well, you're at the back of the queue, and we never got a trade deal. But apparently there has been some negotiation going on in the background over the last few years, and maybe the Labour government, if they can stop insulting Trump and their ministers like David Lammy, who's the foreign secretary, can stop calling him a Nazi, maybe they can get together and come up with a trade deal so that we don't have tariffs on goods sent to the US and vice versa. So we'll see what happens there. But it is a favourite. He likes the UK and he wants to do business, and I think that could be favourable. For the US, we've seen the stock market rise again. There seems to be like happy days are here again. Bitcoin also, I read in the FT today, Bitcoin hits 80,000 record as traders bet on support of Trump and the White House. Of course, the White House is closely linked with Elon Musk, and it could be. I mean, he said something along the lines that he wants all Bitcoin mined in the US. Well, so he's obviously aware of it. He obviously seems to be a supporter of it, but we shall see what happens. I personally don't invest in Bitcoin. I think to me it's a bit of a gamble. Maybe you might say I don't understand Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solaria and all these Solana, all these sorts of things. Well, I don't care. To me, you're just buying something and then hoping to sell it at a higher price to some other sucker and get out before it goes down. I can't see it working as a currency. Maybe you could see it as a store of wealth, but for me, it's too volatile. I'd rather have if you're talking about a store of wealth, I'd rather have my money in something like gold, which can go down as well, but it consistently has gone up over centuries, and it's always been known as a store of wealth, and it's very liquid as well. I can't lose it in some wallet. So going back to the budget then in the UK, Labour had their first budget, the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. Yeah, she's had her budget, and she's put up taxes, national insurance, VAT on school fees, and capital gains tax, tinkering with inheritance tax for businesses and farmers. So it's not been a popular budget. She sort of says, well, we're open for business. But on the other hand, our corporation tax is twice the size of Ireland's, which is why all the tech companies are there and why Ireland has come up in the world compared to the UK in terms of average GDP per person. And it doesn't seem to me like it's open for business. They're just paid massive pay rises to the public sector worker. That's all going to cost money. Borrowing will go up. So I'm not convinced that they are doing a good job. We know that Starmer and Rachel Reeves are extremely left wing. She's got a picture of a female, well-known female communist, I can't remember her name, on her desk. So she admires the communists. I don't think they've had any real business experience between the two of them. She worked for the Bank of England. He worked in law and then with the Director of Public with the Office of Public Prosecutions. So I don't think either of them could run a market stall, and I think we need more experience like that in government. Okay, enough of that sort of rant about that. But then we also had last week the fall in interest rates again, and I'll just try and share something with you so you can see how interest rates are going. But we've had a cut in interest rates by the Bank of England. Okay, so we can see here interest rates cut, but the bank hints fewer falls to come. So that they're saying that there won't be a sort of a long line of falls in the next few months. But we can see here this chart, UK interest rates cut to 4.75. You can see how it went up since 2021 when we had this high inflation. But of course, at this point, at this 5.25%, we had inflation at one point at over 10%. And the Bank of England kept saying, well, we can't reduce rates until we've reached our 2% inflation target. Well, that was reached some time ago, and it's now below 2%. So why are interest rates still languishing up here at the 5%? Now, the Bank of England might argue, well, inflation might come back. Well, if it comes back, put interest rates up again. I just wonder what's going on, because you had inflation at double the interest rate that they were charging, the base rate, Bank of England base rate. And now inflation has gone down to less than half of that. And yet they are still languishing. 4.75 is a very small cut. It's not likely to do very much. I don't think it's really going to affect mortgage rates that much. Don't forget, I reported a few weeks ago that mortgage rates had actually gone up in the last few weeks. I don't know why they obviously everybody expected a rate cut in November, but mortgage rates are, as it says here, mortgage rates are still much higher than they've been for much of the past decade. The average 2-year fixed mortgage rate is 5.4%, according to financial information company Moneyfacts, and a 5-year deal is 5.11. Savers are suffering. Yeah, they will obviously get a letter from their bank like immediately saying we're reducing rates, and the people who owe money like credit cards will immediately get a letter. But the mortgage companies are much slower to react, and I can see. I mean, you can obviously say, well, there are better rates than 5.4%. Of course, there are. You can get a mortgage at 4% ish, but they will have a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, £10,000 fee attached to that, which is ridiculous, and effectively it means it's not a real rate by any means. So we shall have to see. I can't see any rates coming through any rates that are any better than they are now after this cut. And so what we're going to have is people coming off of fixed rate deals, as I have myself recently, and then going on to a rate that doubles your mortgage payment. So for a lot of people, it's still going to be tough. And then, last week's budget, as it says here, it plans to borrow an additional 28 billion a year, not 28 billion, but 28 billion a year. So that's over the next 4 years. That's 100 billion, as well as 40 billion in tax raising measures. What they don't seem to understand is that this tax comes from us. It comes from businesses. It comes from people, and that would drive down the amount of availability of cash to go out and spend and boost the economy. So we're all going to have to tighten our belts. Businesses are expected to pass on the cost of higher national insurance costs to customers, and as a result, a slower pace of wage rises for employees in the private sector. Yes, but of course, in the public sector, they've taxed us to pay public sector workers more. And the bank revised its growth forecast for 2025 and suggested that the rate of unemployment could fall sharply to 4.1%. Of course, we've also had in the budget an announcement that there's an additional stamp duty on second properties, that's buy-to-let properties, going up the additional surcharge of stamp duty, the additional stamp duty from 3 to 5%. So that's almost double. So that's going to hit the buy-to-let market, and it's going to hit the building market as well, the builders. So that's what's going on there in the UK. I know it sounds like I'm talking a bit of doom and gloom here, but we've all just got to get on with our own lives and row our own boats right now. if you tighten your belt, and I tell you my courses how to save money, how to manage your money, but what if you've done that and you still can't seem to make ends meet? Well, the answer is you need to earn more money. You need to have more money coming in. Now, you could get a second job, you could run a little side hustle, or do something to get more money, or you could change jobs or get a pay rise. But a lot of people have tried these things, or maybe you haven't got time because you've got a very demanding job. So I've been looking around, and I know a guy here, Simon Coulson, who's made 25 million in the last, what, 10, 15 years on the internet. He was a guy who worked for BT. He went from just doing that sort of job. He was rushing down the escalators one day and fell over and decided that that was enough. He's got to look for something else. And he went looking, and he went to training courses, and instead of just going to a course and then putting it on the shelf afterwards, you get this folder and you put it on the shelf, called shelf development instead of self-development. He actually acted on these things and slowly built up this business, and he's built up a school called the Internet Business School. And he is the real deal. I mean, a lot of people say, you see him in a photo on Instagram with the Ferrari, but I've seen his Ferrari, and he does own Ferraris, and he does own several cars, and he has made. I've been to his house, and he is the real deal, believe me. So Simon, good guy, and the reason I mentioned him, I'm not trying to sell you one of his courses, but he's got a book out that you can get for free. Where is it now? This is it, the Entrepreneur, and you can get the digital and audio version completely free. All you have to do is pay for the postage. Now you might say, why is he giving away his book if he's this blah 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 blah? Well, of course, he's building up a customer base. He might hope that if you read his book, you might want to get more closely involved with his company and learn more things on some of his courses. So I'm going to put a link up to that for that. Have a look at it. Get the free book.
Hi there, Simon Coulson here, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my Amazon #1 business best-selling book, Interpreneur. All you need to do is just fill out your details on this page and I'll get it sent to you. Now, in this book, I'm going to share with you the 3-step system which I've followed since I left corporate life working for BT to set up my own internet-based business, and I've gone on to generate over £25 million. Now, the book documents my journey over the last 10 years or so, step by step, what I did, how I did it, and you're going to learn loads of fascinating insights in this book as to the kind of products I've created and how I've used the internet to make money. Now, in the book, you're going to learn how I got to buy a brand new Ferrari, how I got to buy my own 35-acre estate in the Kent countryside, how I got to holiday on Necker Island with Sir Richard Branson, and how I ended up public speaking at huge seminars around the world, including sharing the stage with President Clinton, Sir Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Lord Alan Sugar, and many, many more. But also in the book, as well as me teaching you my 3-step system, I'm also going to share with you 20 case studies of people that I've taught how to do exactly the same thing too. Now, these case studies include Frankie, who went on to generate £500,000 in just a 3rd year starting from scratch. They include Bill, who made £200,000 from his first ever attempt at internet marketing. They include Francis, who made as much as £17,000 in a day from his internet marketing efforts. And these are everyday people, just like people all around you, people that you know that are using the internet to make extraordinary incomes. And maybe you could do the same too. So if you'd like to become an internet entrepreneur, just grab a copy of my book, Interpreneur, which I'll send to you free of charge with my compliments.
Thank you, Simon. So that's that. He is the real deal. He has got this estate. I've been there in Kent. So this guy is the real deal. And the courses he runs, I've been on his courses. They're very good. They're step by step, simple courses. He speaks to you in a common language. He speaks to you in a very simple way that you can understand and take in. So I'd highly recommend, if you want to make a bit of extra money, you can do it on the side. There's never been a better time, really, because we've got all the tools now that are so cheap compared to what the cost of setting up these sort of businesses before. And the other thing is, he's also he said to me last year, I said, what is going to be the big trend for 2024? And he said AI, and he was proved exactly right, because everyone is getting onto this. So if you want to find out not just how to use AI and chat GPT and that sort of thing, but how to make money from AI and how to integrate it in your business, that is something that Simon also teaches as well. But get a copy of his book, and I'll put a link up there. Get a copy of his book, and yeah, have a look for yourself. Thanks very much for listening, and I will see you again on the next episode. Bye for now.